Disrespect is one of those things people are taught to tolerate, explain away, or be the bigger person about. But psychology and lived reality both point to a hard truth. Some forms of disrespect aren't mistakes, they're strategies. They're not a one-time slip in manners. They're a message about how much access someone believes they should have to you and how little they believe your feelings, time, or dignity should matter. When you forgive certain disrespect too quickly, what the other person often learns isn't that you're kind. They learn that you're adjustable. And once someone learns you're adjustable, they keep adjusting you until you don't recognize yourself. This script isn't about becoming bitter, paranoid, or unforgiving. It's about discernment. Forgiveness can be an internal process that helps you let go of rage. But reconciliation, access, and trust are earned. You can forgive in your heart and still refuse to continue the relationship in the same way. When I say never forgive here, I'm talking about never excusing, never normalizing, and never restoring full access after patterns that predict harm. These are 5 types of disrespect you should treat as deal breakers because they tend to repeat and escalate when tolerated. The first type is boundary testing that turns into boundary ignoring. Boundary testing is when someone lightly pushes to see if you'll resist, a joke that crosses a line, a small favor that becomes an entitlement, a question you didn't invite, a touch you didn't want, a demand dressed as a request. In healthy relationships, you say no and the person adjusts. In unhealthy ones, no becomes a challenge. They keep asking, they guilt trip, they sulk, they punish you with silence, or they do it anyway. That shift from testing to ignoring is the disrespect. It says your consent is optional and your comfort is inconvenient. Psychologically, boundary ignoring is dangerous because it trains the person to believe persistence is a valid way to access you. It also trains you to disconnect from your own signals. You start asking, am I overreacting? Instead of asking, why do they keep pushing? The key marker is repetition. If you have clearly stated a boundary and they forget it again, that isn't forgetfulness, it's data. The correct response isn't a better explanation. The correct response is stronger protection, distance, consequences, reduced access, and if necessary, ending the relationship. The second type is humiliation, especially public humiliation. Humiliation isn't constructive feedback. It's not a joke that lands wrong once and gets corrected with a sincere apology. Humiliation is when someone reduces you in front of others, mocking your intelligence, exposing private information, shaming your body, making you the punchline, or using sarcasm to cut you while keeping plausible deniability. The psychology here is about status. Public humiliation is a dominance move. It signals, I can lower you and you'll stay. And if you stay, the social environment learns you're safe to disrespect too. A person who humiliates you and then says, you're too sensitive, is not confused about what happened. They're attempting to control the narrative. Healthy people care about impact, not just intent. They repair without making you beg for basic decency. If someone repeatedly humiliates you, the issue isn't communication. It's contempt. And contempt is one of the strongest predictors that a relationship will become more harmful over time. Never forgive humiliation in the sense of letting it slide as normal. Treat it as a serious breach and act accordingly. The third type is betrayal of trust through disclosure, deception, or double standards. This includes sharing things you told them in confidence, twisting your words when retelling a story, lying to your face while expecting you to be honest, or living by rules they don't follow. Betrayal doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle. They keep your secrets until it benefits them to spend them. Or they promise they'll change, then repeat the behavior with new excuses. The disrespect is in the assumption that your trust is theirs to use, not yours to grant. Psychologically, betrayal fractures safety. When trust breaks, your mind starts scanning for threats and your body stays tense. That hypervigilance isn't you being crazy, it's a normal response to inconsistent behavior. And once someone shows a pattern of betrayal, the relationship often becomes a negotiation with reality. You're constantly trying to prevent the next lie, the next leak, the next reversal. You can forgive internally so you're not consumed by anger, but you should not restore full access unless there is consistent, verifiable change over time, and many people who betray trust do not do the work required. The fourth type is invalidation and reality manipulation, including gaslighting. Invalidation is when someone consistently treats your feelings as wrong, your needs as unreasonable, and your perspective as worthless. It sounds like, that didn't happen, you're imagining things, you always make problems. No one else would put up with you, or you're crazy. The disrespect isn't just in the words. It's in the attempt to make you doubt your own perception so you become easier to control. If you're always defending your reality, you have less energy to defend your boundaries. The psychology of gaslighting is about destabilization. If a person can make you uncertain, they can make you pliable. This is why repeated invalidation is not something you should forgive as a personality quirk. Over time, it erodes self-trust, increases anxiety, and can isolate you from people who would otherwise support you. The healthiest response is to stop debating your lived experience with someone committed to denying it. You can say, "We see it differently," and step back. Document facts when needed. Lean on trusted outside perspectives. And most importantly, reduce access to anyone who tries to rewrite your mind. The fifth type is disrespect disguised as love, controlling behavior, jealousy framed as care, and punishment framed as honesty. This is the kind that confuses good people because it arrives wrapped in intensity. They check your phone because they worry. They isolate you from friends because those friends don't deserve you. They criticize you because they want you to improve. They rage and then say, "I only act this way because I love you so much." But real love increases your freedom. Control decreases it. The disrespect is in treating you like property instead of a person. Psychologically, control often escalates. It starts with small permissions and ends with you asking for basic choices like their privileges. And the more you accommodate, the more the controller learns that discomfort works as a tool. If you forgive this by minimizing it, you reinforce the pattern. The right move is clarity. I'm not available for monitoring, threats, or isolation. And if the person responds by escalating, blaming, or turning your boundary into an accusation, that's your confirmation that it isn't love, it's management. Now, a crucial nuance. What about genuine mistakes? Everyone can speak sharply once, or misjudge a joke, or mishandle a moment. The difference is what happens after. A healthy person takes responsibility without excuses, makes repair, and changes behavior. An unhealthy person flips it back on you, repeats it, or turns your pain into a reason you deserve worse treatment. These 5 types of disrespect are deal breakers, not because humans must be perfect, but because these patterns predict future harm when they are tolerated. So what do you do when you recognize one of these types? First, stop arguing for your worth. Your dignity is not something you prove with better sentences. Second, state one clear boundary in plain language. Third, attach a consequence you can actually follow. And fourth, watch behavior, not promises. Many disrespectful people become extremely convincing when they sense you pulling away. Words are cheap, patterns are not. If the disrespect returns, the decision becomes simpler. You don't need more evidence. You need more distance. It also helps to understand why people stay when they're disrespected. Sometimes it's hope, the belief that if you just communicate correctly, the person will finally see you. Sometimes it's history, the sunk cost of years invested. Sometimes it's fear of being alone, fear of conflict, or fear of being labeled difficult. And sometimes it's conditioning. You learned early that love comes with disrespect, so it feels familiar. Familiar is not the same as safe. You can honor your past without repeating it. Here are a few phrases that keep you grounded when disrespect shows up. For boundary ignoring, I've said no. This conversation is over. For humiliation, don't speak to me that way. For betrayal, I can't trust you with that information anymore. For gaslighting, I'm not debating what I experienced. For control disguised as love, I'm not giving up my independence to keep you calm. Notice how each sentence is short and doesn't invite a courtroom argument. Disrespect thrives on dragging you into endless explanations. Another psychology fact that matters here is reinforcement. If someone disrespects you and still gets closeness, access, sex, favors, emotional labor, or your attention, their brain tags the behavior as effective. Not consciously in every case, but behaviorally. When you remove access as a consequence, you interrupt reinforcement. This is why boundaries without follow-through fail. People don't learn from what you prefer. They learn from what you permit. And you teach others how to treat you by what you consistently allow. If you're dealing with disrespect at work, you may not be able to simply cut someone off. But you can still apply the principle, reduce access and increase structure. Keep communication in writing, stick to facts, document incidents, involve HR when appropriate, and avoid one-on-one settings with repeat offenders. Professional distance is a boundary too. In family dynamics, you may need to limit topics, shorten visits, leave when yelling starts, and stop sharing personal information with people who weaponize it. If you're in a romantic relationship and you're seeing these patterns, take them seriously. Love is not proven by how much disrespect you endure. Love is shown by repair, safety, and mutual respect. If you have to shrink, perform, or constantly explain your humanity, that's not intimacy, that's survival. Therapy can help if both people take responsibility and the environment is safe. But if there's manipulation, coercion, or any form of abuse, prioritize safety and seek outside support rather than trying to communicate it into health. One of the hardest parts is separating forgiveness from access. You can release the fantasy that they will become the person you needed. You can stop replaying arguments in your head. You can decide not to carry hatred. That's forgiveness in the internal sense, but access is external, access is earned. Trust is earned. And when someone shows you they'll cross your boundaries, humiliate you, betray you, manipulate your reality, or control you under the label of love, restoring full access is not kindness. It's risk. You might wonder, what if I'm the problem? What if I'm too strict? Healthy self-reflection is good, but here's the check. Do you feel more stable, respected, and safe around this person over time, or more anxious, confused, and small? Are they capable of hearing no without punishment? Do they repair harm without blame? Do they respect your independence? Your body often knows before your mind catches up. Chronic tension, dread before interactions, and constant second-guessing are signals worth listening to. The point of naming these 5 types is not to make you suspicious of everyone, it's to give you a map. When disrespect is occasional and repaired, relationships can grow. When disrespect is patterned and strategic, relationships degrade. And your life improves dramatically when you stop negotiating with patterns that only get worse. It takes courage to say, this is not acceptable, especially if you've been trained to keep the peace. But peace that requires your self-erasure isn't peace. So remember the 5 types you should never forgive in the sense of excusing or normalizing, repeated boundary ignoring, humiliation, betrayal of trust, invalidation and gaslighting, and control disguised as love. If you see one, pause. If you see a pattern, act. Protect your dignity early, because the earlier you respond, the less damage you have to undo later. And if someone truly values you, your boundaries won't threaten them, they'll guide them. In the end, self-respect is not a loud performance. It's a quiet decision you make repeatedly. I will not be treated as disposable. I will not beg for basic decency. I will not trade my peace for someone else's comfort. And I will not call repeated disrespect love just because I'm afraid of what leaving might mean. Your life gets lighter when you stop forgiving what keeps harming you and start choosing what protects you.